Welcome to Farm Charm Chic. I'm Emily. In today's episode, it is another 5 under 5 DIY challenge. I have 5 beautiful fall themed DIYs to share with you, and there's a playlist. I'll explain more about that as we get into the video. If you like crafting, DIYs, dupes, hacks, thrift flips, or just creating in general, I would love if you would consider subscribing. I would love if you would help me get to that goal of reaching 70,000 subscribers by the end of the year. I am almost there. Thank you so much for joining me today. Let's get right into the DIYs. Do you guys ever start making a project with one idea in mind and then it completely keeps changing as you go along? This is exactly that project for me. So I'm just starting with this little sign from Dollar Tree, and this ends up being mostly a Dollar Tree project. And it had this cute little 3D pumpkin on here, and by 3D I just mean that it was popped out a little bit with some little foam blocks. So I'm just using my scraping tool just to kind of get under that and peel that off. And I want to leave those on the back. Now, if you're building this from scratch and you're using like one of the regular wood pumpkins, you would just use some of the little square blocks on the back from Dollar Tree to pop your pumpkin out. But where this already had those foam risers on there, I just left those. Now I'm just using a piece of scrap paper. You can see that I'd used it for another project there, so it was just sitting in my scrapbook stash. So any paper would work. You could even paint this if you wanted. I think a plaid would look really pretty. I just didn't have any plaid, but I really liked this kind of fall feel, this autumn feel to this paper with the cute little pumpkins all over there. I'm just using that Elmer's school glue to get a nice good coverage on the surface there, and then I just place that paper on there, and I'm going to get my brayer and just roll this over. This is going to get out any bubbles, smooth it out. It's going to make sure you have a really good bond between your paper and the surface. Now, if you're a Mod Podger and that works well for you and you have a lot of success with that, or however you like to adhere your paper to surfaces, definitely use that. I'm just showing you what works best for me. Now, to make sure that the edges are all cleaned up, I just take a fingernail file and I go around all of those edges just in a downward motion to clean that up so I don't have an excess of paper hanging over the edge. Now I'm using just a little bit of hot glue so I can get this backing back in the sign. Now it takes me a second here to get this. I just want to make sure that I'm getting everything lined up there, and then I just push that down and it should pop right back into place. Now I'm using another kind of scrapbook paper here. This is kind of a wood tone, and I decided to trace out the pumpkin. Originally I was going to paint this pumpkin, but I thought I found this wood paper when I was going through my paper to find that original pumpkin one, and I thought, well, this kind of matches the frame, and so I'm just taking this. I thought it would be kind of fun to have a natural looking pumpkin on there. I do kind of like a bubble cut around this because I want there to be excess so we can sand it off and have it look really nice. Now this pumpkin had some writing on it, and the writing was doused in glitter, so I sanded that off so I would have a flat surface to work with. When I put that paper down, you don't see those letters pop up or anything. So I'm just going to use, again, that Elmer's school glue on my surface, and I turn that pumpkin upside down as you saw to place that paper on. Now I did use my brayer. I just didn't show that. I got everything, did the whole system again with getting that paper adhered to this, and then I'm just going to sand in a downward motion. You can see how well that works there to get that off, and I'm just going to use some antiquing wax on like a baby wipe or wet paper towel to go around the edge. That way you don't see that torn paper. And then I just take the excess and just kind of go over my paper there. That just kind of ties in that antiquing wax around the edge with the rest of your pumpkin. Now I have these little trucks from Dollar Tree, and I actually was just looking for the little sunflower, but as I pulled these trucks out, I thought this truck would probably be really cute laying on here. I mean, look at how darling that is. So this is kind of when this project started to take shape this way. So it changed again right here, but I loved the look of this on there. I love that blue truck. If you see these at Dollar Tree, I think they have a couple different colors of them, and they have different flowers in them. So the blue had this bright yellow sunflower in there, which is darling. So I'm just trying to make sure of how to get that sunflower positioned here because I wanted to make sure that it was facing outwards so you could really see it. It wasn't sideways. And so I just kind of play around with it a little bit. And these are like hanging ornaments or something. And so I just took that wire off that was hanging with it to put it on here. And the stuff that I glue on here covers up the hole to that, and so you won't be able to see that. Now I took a piece of wheat off of one of them, so they don't all have the same embellishment. So one of them has like the pumpkin, and I think one of them has the wheat or something, but I just took this little sprig of wheat because I thought that would look really cute glued behind there. And so I just took a little, you can see it's a little wooden dowel, and I cut two little pieces off of it to help pop that up. the wood squares, and I apologize that you have to see the top of my head here, but the wood squares you get in the craft section at Dollar Tree were a little too big for this. You could see it from behind. So just anything you have, like even a popsicle stick cut a couple of times to pop that truck out. The reason you want to pop that out is that pumpkin that's on there is a little bit wide, and so it naturally makes it pop out. So I just wanted to make sure that it wasn't like sitting at an angle, that it looked really nice. And so you can see I just tuck that little piece of wheat back there with some hot glue, and then I just do the same thing with this sunflower. I just made sure that it looks great. Just a little bit of hot glue there. And I'm loving my glue gun that I have. You guys know I got a new glue gun recently that's a cordless one, and I'm loving it so far. And so you can see how I place that in there. Now there's a little bit on the pumpkin that has like where I ripped that sunflower off, that you can see the styrofoam of the pumpkin. So you can see, I kind of see that there. To fix that, I just put a little bit of glue on a petal and just push that right into the pumpkin. For a project that kept changing shape, I absolutely love how this one turns out. I think it's super cute. I love the whimsy to it. I think that blue really pops on there with that sunflower. And I love the fact that you can take a piece that was cute to begin with, that sign was cute to begin with, and you can tailor it to your own decor needs or use it to DIY with. What do you guys think of this one? Today's video is part of the 5 Under 5 DIY challenge. I host this challenge every month, and any creator is welcome to join. Basically, the creator has to make 5 different DIYs within the specific theme that each cost less than $5. This month's theme is pumpkins and pine cones, but it's really any fall decor items. For you, the viewer, that means that there is a full playlist that has so many different DIYs for you to gain inspiration from. All you have to do is check out the link in my description box, as well as pinned in my comments. It will play the playlist for you, and you can get all of those fall inspiration DIY ideas. Let's get right back into the DIYs. When I saw these little pumpkin treat buckets at Dollar Tree, I knew exactly what I wanted to do with them. I thought they were so cute. And you could hang them backwards if you just wanted the pumpkin to show. If you like that cute little classic jack-o'-lantern face, it's just such a fun way to bring a definite fall feel into your home. Now, this is just a beaded garland that I have that I use against a giant mirror that I have in my living room. I don't have a fireplace or a mantle, but I think this would be so cute along there as well. But I do a lot of different things to this beaded garland to kind of dress it up for different holidays. And so I thought this would be such a fun thing if you have a garland like this. If you don't, they do sell them. I mean, at the craft stores, Walmart, you can pick them up for very inexpensive. I mean, I think around $6 at Hobby Lobby when you buy it on sale. So this is just some little baby clothespins that I have here that I'm using to put through the twine that's on here. And I'm just hooking it through the twine and then onto that little handle of that little bucket. Such a fun and easy, quick hack to do. I'll just go through the rest of the garland and continue hooking these little buckets on. Once I get all of my little buckets attached, I just lift it up to make sure I have my spacing done really well. I wish there was 5, so it had an odd number, but there was only 4 in the package. So just take that as if you have a longer garland, you may want to pick a second package of these up. Now I wanted to cutesy it up a little bit more. The buckets are really cute just hanging there, but on those little clothespins, I thought it would be really cute to have this little black ribbon with this little white trim. This did come from just the fabric section at Hobby Lobby, and I thought it would just be so cute with these little teeny bows, because we all know that I love bows tied on there. So it's up to you if you want to dress this up or jazz it up a little bit more. But I just do 4 of those little bows, and I'm just getting them all to the exact same size so it looks very cohesive. It just takes a little bead of hot glue on each of these little clothespins, and then I will just place my little bow on there. I really do think that this adds just such a good finishing touch on here and just makes it look very cutesy and high-end. I just love the way it looks. I feel like this was really what sets it off. I love the blacks and orange. Even if you're not like a Halloween fan, I still feel like blacks and oranges in fall just bring that feel of October into your home. And so I really do just love that. But I'm just going to continue on gluing all of my little bows on. It's really hard for me to film this and show you how it looks on my mirror just because of reflections and cameras and lighting and all sorts of other things, but I just thought I would put it here on this display to show you how cute this turns out. Do you guys like the bows on there? You could even fill these little buckets with something, to have that be a little bit of an addition that you add. I just think these turn out so cute. And again, something easy that you could use for different types of seasons. If you have a garland that you like to kind of keep basic and add a few little different touches to it for different seasons. What do you guys think of these little trick or treat buckets? This is such a simple DIY. I hope that you try this because it was so fun. Now, I did find this wire in the jewelry section at Walmart, but you could easily just use, you could use zip ties, you could just use twine to tie these off with, however you wanted. I'm just going to, I end up making 8 loops. I start out with 6, but realize I need more, just of some jute twine. So this is just twine that came from Dollar Tree. I wrap it around each of my hands 20 times. So you could do more or less depending on your style, but just so you know, I did 20 times that I wrapped around and then I snipped it off. And then I just kind of tied it off with that wire. I wrapped that around so that way it stayed in place. But again, you could just use a short piece of jute twine to tie these off in the middle so you wouldn't have to buy an extra thing of wire or anything if you didn't have that on hand. Now, after you get all of your rings, now remember that I end up doing 8, but I started with 6. I'm just going to use some hot glue and glue each of these together in the center. So where you have tied these together, either with your wire or the twine, I'm just using a little bit of glue. If you need to use your silicone finger protectors, do that because you are working very close with your fingers and the hot glue. So just pay attention to that. But I just waited for each little section to dry before gluing on the next section. And I decided to glue 3 and then 3. So I was doing like one half of the pumpkin and then the other half of the pumpkin. And so you can kind of see how I did that here. Now, depending on how tightly or the size of your hands or your loops, however you did your loops here, 6 may be enough. But when I got them together, I just realized that I wanted to have it a little bit more full. At this point, I just glued them to a stick that I found in my yard. It looked like a really cute pumpkin stem. So I'm gluing those first 3 onto this one here. And then I just put some glue around and I will glue this other half onto the pumpkin. This is when I got them together. And you can see I reached my fingers through to kind of grip those together around that stem. But you can kind of see the side of my pumpkin there that it really did just need another loop in there. So again, I just wrapped it around 20 times. I tied it off either with my wire or your jute twine, and then I just kind of reached in and glued it in. Once I added that, you can kind of see I felt like it needed another one to kind of make it a little bit more even. So again, the same process. This would be something so fun to do with like kids or grandkids. You of course would want to just help them with the hot glue part, but I mean they could easily wrap the twine around and everything and make these cute little pumpkins that it ends up being so darling. I absolutely just love how this turns out. So this last one I did with just tying the twine on there. So if you need to rewind that to see, but that does show you kind of how I tied the twine on instead of using the wire. So I glue that one in and I just fluff it up a little bit to kind of make sure that it looks as full as I want it. And then I just wanted to put some hot glue around here because I'm adding some Spanish moss. I've been loving using Spanish moss in my fall decor. I don't know if it's just that it gives it a special softness or if it looks like pumpkin vines or what it is, but I've really enjoyed it. And I do just trim it up because I don't like it to be too wild and out of control. And then I have this pick that's from Dollar Tree, and I love these little silvery greenish blue leaves. So you can see I'm just putting some glue on the end of that, and I'll glue that in just as a little bit of the pumpkin leaf there to kind of add a different color to it. I'm just really pleased with how it looks. And I felt like it needed a little something else, so I just take some raffia and I'm just making a little bow. So I just kind of loop it around several times and then just tie that off in the center. This just adds another little bit of texture to it. I felt like the bow just kind of sets it off there a little bit, and I really love how that looks on there. I just think this turns out absolutely adorable, especially for how simple it was to make. It would be so cute sitting on a coffee table, just a perfect decor. This would be perfect to leave out for Thanksgiving, even all season long. What do you guys think of this one? Sure, you've seen these little pumpkins from Dollar Tree or seen some other YouTubers do some different things with them, but hopefully I'm taking a little bit of a different take on them. So I am going to use my table saw to cut these down. So I just kind of measure them each and cut a little bit off of two of them to kind of stagger their sizes. So you can see how I did that here. For some reason, I guess I didn't hit record, but you can kind of see where I cut those off at. And I am just going to go ahead and go back in and make those little corners match so that way they are all cohesive there. So you can see here that I just very safely make sure that you're wearing your safety glasses and everything, and I'm cutting those at that angle so that way they match. It takes me just a minute to figure out how to do those angles there. So but just make sure you can see that you get them all cut there, and I'm going to kind of, there we go, draw my line so I can get that, and just make sure that they all get cut with that little bit of an edge to make them all match one another. I'm also taking some rustic barnwood that I have from a barn that we tore down at our farm, and I'm just going to cut these the same way. I kind of stagger their sizes in with these, but make sure they have that little cornered edge there that I'm cutting the angle, so that way they'll fit right in with these Dollar Tree pumpkins. So you can see here what I'm going to do is take off the little bit of raffia bow that's on there. And I do kind of, you saw me sand a little bit to get that glitter off. Now I'm going to paint these to match the colors that I'm using for fall, which is, I'm trying to think of what the colors are here. There's pumpkin from Waverly Chalk Paint, moss from Waverly Chalk Paint, and then the plaster color from Waverly also. So I paint the three pumpkins from Dollar Tree, and then I will just leave the barnwood as the natural wood color. I do take a little bit of the antique wax and go over the stem on those Dollar Tree pumpkins to make sure that they have darkens it a little bit because that wasn't quite the color I wanted. So I do take what's left in my brush from that plaster chalk paint, and I kind of do just lightly brush over these to give them a little bit of an aged look there. I take some square little cube blocks that I got in a package at Dollar Tree to put as the stems on these pumpkins. I thought that was kind of a fun contrast to the other stems that were there. And since those are the natural wood color, I left these the natural wood color. So I do just kind of organize these, kind of stagger them, figure out exactly how I want them to be before I connect them, glue them all to one another, which I guess is connecting, so I'm not wrong there. And then I'm just using a little bit of hot glue there and gluing those two, you can see side by side. And then I will glue those onto this one in the back. So I just go in with my glue, and I do just use hot glue for all of this. And then I just make sure you can kind of see that. There we go. Then I just place this next one here in front, and I get that kind of positioned how I want it. And I'm just kind of eyeballing. There's no method to my madness. Just what looks good to my eye is what I go with there, and connect those all together. Now I did really like the little raffia bow that was on those pumpkins, but I kind of wanted to make my own. So I had a little control over how big or little I wanted it. So I thought it would be fun to just go back in and on those Dollar Tree pumpkins, just put a little bit of a raffia bow on each of those. And then I just leave my barnwood pumpkins plain. Now, I probably should have done this before I glued them all together, but I wasn't quite sure if I wanted to distress the Dollar Tree pumpkins, but after getting them here, looking at them with the barnwood, I definitely wanted that. So I do just go in right now with a little bit of antiquing wax and go around the edges. You can easily sand to distress or not distress at all. It's really up to you. I'm just kind of hopefully giving you some type of inspiration here. I got the cutest little set of wooden leaves at Hobby Lobby. It came with a bunch of different sizes and colors. I thought they were so cute. So I am just using a little bit of super glue on the back of these, and I only glue them onto the white pumpkin just to give a little bit of embellishment, add a little extra color in there. I thought these just were so cute. What do you guys think of these? I think these are so cute for a tiered tray or even just to have sitting out on a shelf. I am so excited to show you this project because it is so fun and simple and it turns out so cute. So I'm just showing you that I took some paint sticks and I just cut them down to size. You could easily use some craft sticks or the jumbo craft sticks if you would like. But these bigger sticks I have right here, not sticks, these are like the planks. I think they're just like wood planks. They come 6 or so in a package from Dollar Tree. So I'm just taking 3 of those and I'm just kind of spacing them, you can see, with a little bit of space so it kind of looks like a palette, but I'm also staggering the length. So I push that middle one down just a little bit so that way it kind of gives it the shape of a pumpkin is what I'm going for here. Now this is going to be the back, so again you can use the craft sticks, but I just thought those paint sticks, if you could see those through the little space that I provided there, I liked that. Now I'm just using a pumpkin color of chalk paint here and I'm just going to paint this front and back, make sure it's completely covered. And then I just like to, if you guys have watched me, you know I love to distress everything. So I just take my little emery board and I go all over each of the edges, also in between the little grooves that I left there to kind of give it that worn and farmhouse touch. Now, like a lot of crafters I know, I have a hard time throwing anything away. So this is just a piece off of one of the little sponge tools, the painting tools that I use. And so I'm just sanding the edges so it kind of gives it a fun little softer shape to it. And then I'm just going to paint this with just some green moss color chalk paint. And this is just going to be the cute little stem to my pumpkin. So I just go ahead and paint this and then I distress it a little bit. And then I'm just going to use some hot glue and then I'm just going to glue that on. And I put my glue down and I kind of then space my pumpkin to make sure that none of the glue is showing up over the edge or anything and that it's a good height to the pumpkin there. So now comes the fun part of embellishing this. So I'm just taking a leaf off of one of the Dollar Tree picks that I had from fall. You use any kind of leaf or anything, even some like a fabric leaf would be really cute. And I'm just gluing that on with some hot glue and just kind of softens the look of it. And I'll just take a little extra glue here, glue down any parts that are sticking up kind of how I don't want them. And then I thought it would be really cute to use some Spanish moss. So I'm just putting a little bit of glue onto the top of the pumpkin. And then you can see here, I'm just putting a little bit of glue on the back. And I'll use my little silicone tool here just to push that down. And then I have this cute little pipberry that I had that came, I got this at Hobby Lobby, but I have seen some at Dollar Tree. So if you can get some there, definitely do that. And I just kind of wrap it around like my brush to give it a little curly Q type of style to it. And I just wrap it on that little stem there, and I thought that just kind of was cute, acted like a little pumpkin vine or something, just a cute little embellishment on there. I love having projects like this and getting to use your creativity to kind of embellish and decorate them. Now I'm just taking some raffia and I'm just going to tie this in a knot around that little stem, and I left it long because I wanted to kind of see how much I needed to cut off. So after I get that tied off, I just kind of eyeball it and do my best judge on like where I want to cut it. And then you can kind of crinkle this with your fingers or to anything you want to do to give it a little bit more of a farmhouse look. But I just take the extra pieces that I have and tie just like a little shoestring, like a loop bow there, and tie a little piece around it. To me, this is the easiest way to tie raffia rather than to actually try and tie the bow. And then I'm just using some hot glue to glue that right over the knot that I tied before. Now this would be really cute to kind of lean up against something, or you could even add it to another sign if you had made a bigger sign, but I just take a little tumbling tower block and glue that onto the back to help it stand. Look at how adorable this turns out. I love it, and it was not that much money to create, so you could definitely do this on a budget, and I think it turns out so cute, and it is definitely that perfect farmhouse fall touch. Thank you so much for taking time out of your day to watch today's video. I really hope that you enjoyed today's projects. If you did have a favorite, always let me know down in the comments. It is so fun reading which projects that you guys liked the best. Don't forget to hit that thumbs up and subscribe if you'd like to see more videos. Thank you for watching. I'll see you next time. Happy crafting! If you like the video that you just saw and you want to keep crafting together, here's another video that you might enjoy. And as always, remember to like and subscribe. Thanks so much for watching. I'll see you next time.